Scrabble is a registered trademark of Hasbro Incorporated and Mattel. This video is not associated with either company or its affiliates. That stated, one of my objectives is to spread the joy of Scrabble. Do you play Scrabble, or at least know the rules of the game? If you do, I think you'll enjoy this video. When I started playing Scrabble in 1975, the common way to learn and study words in North America was to hunt through the Funk and Wagnall Standard College Dictionary, the official arbiter of Scrabble words. In 1978, the official Scrabble Players Dictionary, the OSPD, was published, and it became the authority. In the fruits of these word hunts, serious players of the 70s and the early 80s scrapped together lists, sometimes incomplete, and published them in newsletters or passed them around amongst themselves. By the mid-1980s, the OSPD had been keyed in, and computer programs had been written with the goal of producing reliable Scrabble word lists. To my knowledge, the first comprehensive compilation of such lists in book form was the Word Book, written by Mike Bairn and Jerry Gwynn, published in 1988. This led to increasingly targeted publications aimed at presenting word lists in such a way that, from the point of view of Scrabble efficacy, the most useful words could be studied and cross-studied more often than the less serviceable words. Other factors being equal, the shorter the word, the more advantageous it is to learn it. That is, a two-letter word helps boost your Scrabble score more than a three-letter word, and a 3 helps more than a 4. This simple descending pattern based on frequency of occurrence holds true up to 6 letters. Then at 7 letters, it jumps back up, because in Scrabble, you are awarded a 50-point bonus for playing all 7 tiles in your rack. In North America, this 50-point bonus is called a bingo. Generally, by the time players approach or have reached the expert level, they know all the 2- and 3-letter words and most of the 4s and 5s. At that point, their study is typically focused on learning and anagramming the many, many 7- and 8-letter words. In this position, you have the rack at the bottom of the screen, which anagrams into Dunites. One way you can play it is vertically, hooking the S onto max for 80 points. Another possibility is to overlap the same word underneath maxi, and if you find the optimal placement, which is here, you can score 79 points, overlapping 4 words. The third option is to play to or through an existing tile. There are several 8-letter bingos available here, but the highest scoring one by far, 17 more points than its next rival, is audience, down to the triple word score for 80 points. This little demonstration spotlights the 3 basic ways of bingoing: hook, overlap, and through. It also alludes to the import of knowing and being able to find 7 and 8-letter words. In contrast to 79 or 80 points, your best non-go, meaning non-bingo play, scores only 25 points. The more bingo length words you are able to play, the more points you will score on average, and the more games you will win. I'm sneaking up to an important point. Suppose you have this opening rack, EEILRTV. The only way you can garner a great score with these tiles is by playing all 7 of them at once. Sadly, it happens there is no 7-letter word here. That won't stop you from eventually making the best legal opening play or close to it, assuming you don't try to play a phony. But the tease of a promising rack like this will cost you precious time on your clock as you search in vain for a bingo. There are players who perhaps started studying while still in the womb, who can alphabetize the letters and instantly recognize almost any bingo that exists on a rack. But let's assume you are not such a person. Rather, let's assume simply that you've studied a lot, your word knowledge is excellent, and your anagramming ability is competent enough so that you take, say, 2 minutes to find a tough 7-letter bingo if it exists. Or if it doesn't, at that point, you reluctantly give up and settle for a non-go. With those admittedly oversimplified assumptions, you just wasted 2 minutes on this rack looking for a bingo that wasn't there. Let's replace the T with an N. If anything, this rack looks less bingo prone, but you spend around 2 minutes on it, and this time you find the bingo that is there. Okay, great. Still, between the two situations, you invested 4 minutes to find only one bingo. Oh, if only in both cases an angel would whisper in your ear simply whether or not you have a bingo. You could save those 2 tense and unsuccessful minutes on the deceptive T-rack. That's a substantial savings for a simple empty board situation, considering that in a typical game, with its many twists and turns, the total time allotted to you is only 20 to 25 minutes. Moreover, the duration of bingo searches is a probability spectrum. In real life, you don't suddenly know after 2 minutes or whatever period of time you choose to forage whether or not a bingo is there. There is a significant risk you'll give up before you find the existing bingo and fail to get the 50-point bonus, significantly reducing your chances to win. By the way, the bingo in this rack is Livener, Livener. Now consider what might happen a half turn later. Suppose that your opponent goes first, laying down opiated. After you discover that Livener is on your rack, it looks like it might fit here or here. But either way requires playing a phony 2-letter word, L-E or D-I. Alas, Livener is not an option. And of course, opiated does not take a hook letter on the front or the back. If you bingo, it's going to have to be an 8-letter bingo vertically through one of the tiles on the board. Geez, now in order to determine if you have a bingo or find the one that is highest scoring, you have to try each of the tiles in opiated combined with your rack. That's 7 separate searches. And 8-letter words have 8 times as many anagramming permutations as 7-letter words. Potentially, it could take you 56 times as long as the original scenario. Maybe less, depending on luck or judgment, but clearly you don't have enough time. You will have to choose a tile to play through and hope it's the right one. Or ration your time on each letter and hope to somehow find the bingo in much less time than you normally need. Remember, your word knowledge is excellent and you've studied a lot. You can assume that any bingo with livener plus one of the 7 tiles on the board is well within the probability threshold of words that you've anagrammed before. If you receive some heavenly advice to look through the P, you can afford to spend the time finding the only bingo on the board, which is Rep 11. What if, instead of informing you that P is the key letter to play through, the angel tells you every letter of the alphabet that livener can combine with to make an 8-letter word? Sure, that would work just as well, because P would be on that list and the other letters in opiated would not. Indeed, such information would generally be more useful in the event that one of the other letters in opiated is part of the pro bingo set. As a purely hypothetical example, suppose you were told that both P and E are viable through letters. You would likely try the E first because it might reach the triple word square. And if not, then hopefully you would still have time to look through the P. Wow, what a time saver that would be. And that translates into finding more bingos in the targeted time you do have, which means winning a lot more games. How can you magically tap into that information? That is the subject matter of this video. In 1990, a couple of years after the word book was published, I started playing Scrabble again after an 8-year hiatus. Suddenly, I had so many Scrabble-related ideas floating around in my head that I decided to start a monthly newsletter. I called it Medleys, which at the time was my phone number, MEDLEYS. In the first few months, Charlie Carroll and I struck up a friendship and together wrote path-breaking articles on efficient study habits, which first appeared in Medleys number 5. Eventually, we got around to bingo mnemonics, which exploded onto the Scrabble population starting in issue 15 in the spring of 1992. These bingo mnemonics were, and still are, so efficacious that Charlie won what was in effect the National Scrabble Championship the following year. 3 months prior, in issue number 12, I had made a mysterious reference to a new term, anahook. Perennial expert and Medleys contributor Joel Sherman subsequently sent in a short poem, Anna 1, Anna 2, Anna Hook. Anna who? He's got a good sense of humor. 3 issues later, Joel got his answer, as did the other readers, and a lot more. Here is a simple 3-letter word, cat. You can front hook this word with an S for scat, or you can back hook it with the same S for cats. Okay, now what do you call it if you add a letter in the middle of the word, such as coat? Or with the same O, anagram the 4 letters into taco. What do you call the A? For this concept, I mean the O, excuse me. For this concept, I combined the words anagram and hook to create the new term anahook. In other words, O is an anahook for cat. Likewise, O is an anahook for dog because the 4 letters can be anagrammed into the word good. I trust you can visualize that. Other anahooks for cat and dog include E and S for both cat and dog, even though they are also regular hooks. In other words, shuffling is optional. Now, let's look at a 6-letter word. E-V-I-L-E-R, eviler. Listed in alphabetical order, the complete set of anahooks for eviler is as follows: A, B, D, E, G, L, M, N, O, R, S, and Y. Got it? Of course not. How can you remember all that? Here is how. You arrange the anahooks themselves into an order that is easy to recall. The phrase I created for the 12 anahook letters I just pummeled you with is danger symbol. Note that I did not choose my words arbitrarily. I made an effort to anagram the anahook letters into a phrase that associates with its stem eviler. There's a connection in meaning between the two. Now, anytime eviler comes up, in my mind's eye, I picture a skull and crossbones, which of course is a danger symbol. That's the easiest way for me to remember it. There are many ways to study the group of words that a mnemonic represents. One good way is to write the mnemonic at the top of a page, then rewrite the anahook letters vertically, and then write the words that each anahook creates to its right. Then practice. Cover up the words with your hand or a piece of paper and work your way down the page. Use real tiles on a rack if you must, but I recommend anagramming in your head. Try to find at least one bingo in eviler plus D. Then check the answer, and then try to find at least one word in eviler plus A. Check the answer. Try to find a word in eviler plus N. Check the answer, and so on. Before long, you won't need the page at all. You'll be able to cycle through and reconstruct the words just by mentally retrieving eviler danger symbol. You can do all this in your head while you're waiting in line, exercising, showering, laying in bed at night, whatever. Let's go back to the first opening rack we examined, EEILRTV. Having spent some time with it away from the board, eviler will jump out at you as a stem that you've studied. Right? Is there a bingo in eviler plus T? No, because T is not in the phrase danger symbol. It would be a complete waste of time to try to bingo with this rack. You can also gain hugely when the paradigm is turned on its head, even if all you know is the mnemonic and not the underlying words. If your opponent bingos with this rack, you can challenge with 100% confidence that the word is phony, and you'll win an extra turn. Conversely, this is the second rack we pondered, the same one, but with an N instead of a T. Is there a bingo here? Well, yes. It is eviler plus N. And there is an N in danger symbol. Even if you do not immediately recall the 7-letter word that eviler plus N creates, you will know with certainty that you should keep looking until you remember it or find it. It is there for sure. Assume that you have studied this set of words to the point of it being second nature. In essence, it is as good as having a big cheat sheet next to the board. For fun, let's say that you reach this position and you have the rack at the bottom of the screen. Naturally, you shuffle it like this, so it reads, eviler plus blank. First, I'll make sure you know the words that can be created on this board with hooks. You can hook M here to make Monta, or B here for biota. You can hook a D here for orad, or an L here for oral. You can hook a G or N here to make agog or agon. Or you can hook an A, S, or Y here to make raga, rags, or raggy. In short, you can hook somewhere on the board with every letter in your mnemonic phrase except for E, R, and O. With that hook knowledge under your belt, and with the benefit of the information to the left of the board, what playable bingos can you find and which are highest scoring? Feel free to pause the video if you like and resume when you are ready. Otherwise, you are welcome to just sit back, relax, and watch. A blank on the right bottom side of the screen here. A blank is essentially a wild card. You can use it as a stand-in for any letter you like. With a blank, you are much more likely to have a bingo or multiple bingos. At the same time, there is a difficulty infused. It is much harder to find the best legal play. In many situations, in theory at least, you have to substitute every possible letter of the alphabet for the blank to make sure you haven't missed anything. With any given bingo, it is much harder to find it with a blank than if that same bingo is a natural, meaning that your 7th tile is the actual letter needed, not the blank. That said, most of the bingo words written on this page can be played on the board. If you make the blank a D, you can play any of the words on the D line except deliver by hooking the D here under aura. You can play either of the 2 A words or any of the 5 S words by hooking the A or S onto rag. And 4 additional words can be played. I'll get to them in a minute. Given free reign of the entire Scrabble board, the highest scoring place to play a 7-letter word is not on a red triple word score, as inexperienced players sometimes believe. Rather, it is by covering 2 double word squares, like these 2, thereby quadrupling the score. Such a play is called a double-double. Granted, a double-double requires the fortune of an exact placement, but it is not an uncommon occurrence. What is uncommon, very rare in fact, is when a double can be played in all 4 standard board locations. And I venture to assert that it has never happened in a real game with all 4 being 7-letter words. In large part, that is why I had fun constructing this deceptively simple position. The bingo possibilities I cited earlier that hook a D or A or S score 74 points or less. The bonanzas are the double doubles, each of which involves hooking the blank, which is typically the hardest kind of hook to spot. The phrase danger symbol includes a B, which hooks here in the fourth position of a double double. So it's just a matter of figuring out if B is the fourth letter in the word. If not, it will just yield another 70+ point bingo. If B is the fourth letter, then the value of the word redoubles and you can score considerably more. When you find verbile, playable right here, you will have a eureka moment when you realize you can indeed play it as a double-double. Likewise, you can hook an M here, and there is an M in danger symbol, and it's the fourth letter of the word. Therefore, vermal gives you a double-double as well. As a practical matter, after finding verbile or vermal for 90 points, you would probably plunk it down, identify the blank, announce your score, and punch the clock. It wouldn't be worth spending additional time on the unlikely chance of finding an even higher scoring play. But if you do keep looking, you'll discover that your hook of a Y, another letter in danger symbol, also generates a double-double, and for 92 points instead of 90. Livier was added to the lexicon in 2015, so it seems to me it is also the word most likely to provoke a challenge. The other double-double words available in this position have been acceptable since 1978 or earlier. Just to show you, put it on the board, Livier fits right there. Finally, we've worked our way around to the lower double-double. A go takes a G hook or an N hook, and both of those letters are part of the danger symbol phrase. And what do you know? G and N are both the fifth letter in their respective words. Because I wanted a unique solution for each double-double, I added aura to the position so that Veliger, which hooks the L under aura, can play, and Livener cannot because aura interferes. Veliger scores 94 points, edging out the other double-doubles. As a shortcut, you can see Veliger as highest scoring without counting the entire play, because the only difference is that you pick up 8 points from oral plus a go, compared to rag only adding 6 points, and anta and iota only 4 points. I hope you're starting to grasp the power of these mnemonics, applicable to various situations with or without a blank. In the Efficient Study Habits articles that Charlie Carroll and I co-authored, at some point, I started using the term anamonic, a merging of my term anahook and the word mnemonic. Later, veteran expert Bob Lipton gently reminded me that it was he who had first sported this hybrid word in our private correspondence a couple of months earlier. It had sounded so natural that I hadn't even noticed his spontaneous coinage. The term anamonic is widely used even today. It is a staple in expert Scrabble. Let's check out another position. Your opponent has opened with Bow Hunt, and you have the rack at the bottom of the screen, ADELMOS. To figure out if you have a 7-letter word, you can shuffle your rack, find the 6th stem, Aldose, and apply this anamonic. Aldose, MVP's thick beer. Aldose is a kind of sugar, and MVP is a common abbreviation for most valuable player. After winning the Super Bowl, the MVP celebrates by adding sugar to his beer, which is why it is thick. During study, and when you're recalling bingos at the table, just ignore the duplicate E. Alternatively, you can settle for the MVP's brick or Herb's MTV pick, whatever you believe you can somehow form a memorable image for when connecting it to Aldose. I chose to add the redundant E because I was more confident that I could mentally conjure up MVP's thick beer on demand. And here is the Aldose page. By the way, if you want to be able to deduce the exact number of bingos for each letter, in this case 2 for P, S, and C, and 3 for R, that information can be built into the mnemonic. I'll cover advanced techniques in a later video. But anyway, you can see Aldose, it's an M in the phrase. A 6+1 mnemonic helps you challenge an opponent's phony, but the main purpose is to figure out if there's a 7-letter word on your rack. Any subset 6 stem serves that purpose. Here are the alternatives, though a stem that includes M covers a set of 7-letter bingos with lower probability, and thus you will almost certainly have learned Aldose first. Here, medals bump worthies. Worthies meaning strong competitors. Here, some people feel that models are so attractive that it is unfair to the rest of us, and so on. Just use a little imagination when needed to associate the stem to the phrase. In any case, Aldose by itself gives you a lot. So, having quickly determined that there is a bingo in your rack, you notice that you can S-hook it onto Bow Hunt for 78 points. You're not done yet, but if and when you fail to find an even better bingo, a process that I will soon show you does not have to be excruciating, you can always fall back on your very respectable 7-letter bingo. Let's complicate the situation still further. Suppose you are the one to open with Bow Hunt. Your opponent replies with Schmucky. And again, you hold Aldose plus M at the bottom of the screen. In case you didn't spot it on the Aldose sheet already, the 7-letter word in your rack is damsel. Damsel is an old variant of damsel. Unfortunately, damsel can no longer be played on the board because the opponent has taken for himself or herself the very S spot, the hook that you need. Having been denied a spot for your 7-letter bingo, you are now on a dedicated hunt for an 8-letter bingo. But whoa, there are 12 different letters to play to or through. Where, oh, where do you start? And will you ever emerge from the rabbit hole? One of the earliest mnemonics I learned was Damozel Prize Gals. It's very memorable. Then the second edition of the OSPD came along in 1991, and a word was added that turned D into a new Anahook. Fortunately, it was obvious that the phrase could be painlessly revised to prized gals. And since then, there has been no further need to update it. What I like most about this mnemonic is that nearly all the 8-letter words, exactly one for each Anahook letter, are obscure or elusive, hard to find. That makes the seemingly divine knowledge of which Anahooks work all the more of a godsend. Okay, back to the board position. Whether it came to you initially by alphagram recognition or you used a 6-stem, such as Aldos, as a stepping stone, you are aware that Damozel is in your rack at the bottom of the screen. With the Damozel Prize Gals mnemonic in your repertoire, it is a trivial matter to figure out which letters you can bingo through. Simply take a look on the board and see if any of the open tiles, not S, it's blocked, any of the others, can be found in the phrase prized gals. Pause and examine them. Which, if any, of the tiles on the board here are included in the phrase prized gals? If you've determined that none of the open letters here are in prized gals, you are correct. You cannot bingo. That is disappointing, naturally, but just think of all the time you saved. Without an mnemonic to transcend the issue, you might use up almost all your time prior to giving up and still not know whether you missed a bingo. As it is, thanks to the mnemonic, you can quickly rule out a bingo, find a decent fish, such as OM here for 27 points, and your precious clock time remains intact. Suppose we change the opponent's last play from Schmucky to Scrumpy, with again Damozel on your rack. Now what? Well, it doesn't take long to realize that you can bingo through the P and the R, and only the P and R. That is, unless they unluckily both happen to be the first letter of the word, in which case they don't quite fit on the board. As the P resides on a double word square column, you first anagram Damozel plus P with whatever organized or chaotic anagramming routine you normally use. When you find malposed, you realize it does indeed reach the double word square, which means that you don't bother looking for a bingo through the R. You know it exists, but it clearly scores less. So why waste time on it? That demonstrates yet another value to the mnemonic. If you were searching for a bingo on the fly, you might well try the R, among others, before the P, because R is more likely to inhabit a bingo. In other words, even if you manage to get around to one of the favorable tiles before exhausting whatever search time you can reasonably allocate to this position, you might easily fail to earn the extra points, in this case 13 points, that you would score if only you knew that another letter works. Let's revisit an earlier position with fresh eyes. Within your rack at the bottom of the screen, you notice teens, T-E-I-N-D-S. Oh, a funny pronunciation. So you separate it on your rack accordingly. In the old days, a teen was a kind of tax. Occasionally, all the letters in a stem clone themselves, teens and teens, as they do here. That is, teens plus T works, teens plus E works, teens plus I works, and so on. Just remember, it is a glum Turk that pays them. In relevance to the situation at hand, this anemonic tells you there is a 7-letter bingo in teens plus U, which is your rack. Or if you happen to recognize the 7-letter word by alphagram or other means, you can skip directly to got a bump here. There we go. You can skip directly to Dunites. Now, Dunites are rocks, which, if found in the soil, quell farming. The letters A, M, and I, which appear in that phrase, are on the board. And they are, therefore, the letters through which you can play an 8-letter bingo. Logically, you'll look at the A first to see if you can reach the upper or lower triple word square. And you'll find audience. Having done that, you won't bother wasting time on the M or I, even though you know they work. You'll simply choose between audience and whatever you believe your best placement of Dunites. For fun, I've constructed one more position. For this finale, I'm using a set of tiles kindly donated by Bob Schoenman, who is the original creator of Pro Tiles. This jumbo font set with its large, easy-to-see letters is my very favorite among all the tile sets I've collected over the decades. Thank you so much, Bob. Here you have the familiar Damosel rack at the bottom of the screen. Which bingo or bingos, if any, can you play on this board? Please feel entirely free to make use of the paper on the left-hand side of the board, which is pretty much the equivalent of what a serious mnemonic student has at his mental fingertips. If you know the 2- and 3-letter Scrabble words, I recommend that you pause the video now and have a close look. It's fun. For the rest of you, I suggest this. Just sit back and enjoy the show. The short answer is that all of the 7- and 8-letter bingos on this paper can be played on the board. In fact, one of them plays in 2 spots. Not only that, even without tripling, each of them scores over 100 points. I'll cycle through them now. First, the 7 stem itself. Damosel plays, you can see that right there, across to the lower right triple word square, overlapping 4 words and scoring 101 points. Damosel plus P is malposed, playable here on the middle left triple word score as a 4-word overlap for 115 points. Damosel plus R is earldoms, across the middle bottom triple and overlapping 4 words for 104 points. Damozel plus Z is damosels. Whoops, sorry. We're at damozel plus I. Damozel plus I is melodias, playable here on a double-double as a 3-word overlap for 105 points. You see that? And another one for damozel plus I, melodias plays in a second spot here, right here, as a 6-word overlap, including the relatively new EEW for 117 points. And now damozel plus Z is damosels, doubling Z and overlapping 4 words, including sumo and for 114 points. Damozel plus E is some deal. On a double-double with an internal creation of pongos and a loca hook at the bottom there, loca, for 113 points. Damozel plus D is dolmades, down to the middle triple square, collecting 3 overlaps on the way for 105 points. That's prized. Now gals. Damozel plus G is gladsome, right there, down to the lower right triple, collecting 5 overlaps on the way for 110 points. If you hear that fireworks going off in the background, that's because so many anamonics are being played. Damozel plus A is a la modes. Fits right in there. You can see that. That's the highest scoring one. A double-double that internally fills emu and tog and overlaps 3 more words for 120 points. Damozel plus S is slalomed. Right here. On this double-double with a couple of hooks thrown in. Well, my hand's in the way here. Let me see if I can get out of the way for you. There we go. For 102 points. And finally, damozel plus S is, of course, damosels, played from the upper left triple word score. It overlaps 4 words and scores 110 points. If you add the 48 points from the opponent's rack when you go out, right here, see that at the top of the screen, or I'll bring it down here. You can see it a little more easily, 48 points there. Those 12 bingos range from 149 to 168 points. 4 are double doubles and 6 cover a triple word. And yet the mere, whoops, I dropped the rack. Hold on. There we go. And yet the 2 that are neither triples nor double doubles are score several points above the monster average. That's the one that goes through the Z. It's just a double word. And the vertical melodias that goes down here and catches all those extra words going crosswise. And it's only the only one that scores higher than this vertical melodias is a la modes through here for 120 points. Such bingos of centurific status occasionally do arise in real games, and the technique for zeroing in on them is fundamentally the same. Anamonics are your bread and butter for the more frequently arising bingos in the 60 to 80 point range, but their scoring power can go well beyond that. My upcoming plans include a video series memorializing bingos of 9 letters or longer that Scrabble experts and enthusiasts have played over the years. In fact, I've got a wonderful 9-letter word nearby that I'll show you in a moment. If you have played a bingo of 9 or more letters and would like me to show it or mention it on my next video, please visit my website shown here to get my current email address. Alternatively, you can message me on Facebook. I'm also planning a follow-up video on Anamonics, covering more examples, listing resources for you to find mnemonics created by myself and others, and revealing some advanced techniques that are really cool. The extent to which I follow through with these plans depends largely on whether you subscribe to my channel. Where's that 9-letter word? There it is. Subscribing is totally free and hassle-free, and you can see a thumbnail list of all my videos. And if you wish, you can even be alerted when I release my next video, which will also be free. I've been subscribing to other people's channels, and I never get ads or promotions or anything like that. It's really easy. Just click on the rectangular subscribe button down there. It helps me get recognized and costs you nothing. And it takes only 1 second. Smash that button, or at the least, click the thumb up icon to let me know that you like this video. That's it. Reach for the mouse or your pad or your screen and click on subscribe. Subscribe and thumb up. Thank you so much.